The disappearing campground of Silent Valley. Silent Valley was a picturesque camping spot nestled between towering mountains and a tranquil lake. It was a place of serenity and natural beauty, but it also harbored a mysterious secret. A group of friends decided to spend an overnight trip at the campground, eager to enjoy the peaceful surroundings. As they set up their tents along the edge of the lake, the sun cast a warm golden glow over the landscape. The water's surface rippled gently, and the distant calls of birds created a soothing backdrop. The friends shared laughter and camaraderie, their excitement palpable as they prepared for a night under the stars. As darkness settled in, the group gathered around their campfire, its flames casting dancing shadows on the trees that surrounded them. The air was filled with the scent of pine and the crackling of burning wood. They roasted marshmallows and shared stories, the atmosphere alive with a sense of adventure. But as the night deepened, an unsettling silence fell over the campground. The usual sounds of nature seemed to fade, replaced by an almost oppressive quiet. The group exchanged puzzled glances, feeling as if the very air around them had grown heavy. Attempting to dispel their unease, they decided to take a short walk along the lake's edge. But as they ventured further from the campfire's glow, they noticed something odd. The campground seemed to be shifting, as if the trees in the lake were rearranging themselves. Panic bubbled within them as they realized that the familiar landmarks they had relied upon were no longer where they should be. The lake's shoreline seemed to stretch endlessly, the trees forming a maze that disoriented and confused them. With each step they took, the feeling of being watched intensified, as if unseen eyes were studying their every move. The moon's pale light revealed strange shapes moving within the trees, shadows that seemed to dance and sway in the darkness. The friends stumbled and retraced their steps, but the landscape continued to shift, and the campground seemed to elude them. Whispers carried on the wind reached their ears, forming words that chilled their blood. The whispers spoke of lost souls and forgotten histories, of a place where reality and illusion merged. Desperation fueled their attempts to find their way back to the campfire, but the more they tried, the deeper they seemed to become entangled in the ever-changing forest. Exhausted and disoriented, they finally collapsed onto the ground, their sense of time and direction shattered. Just as despair began to take hold, the first rays of dawn broke through the canopy. With the light, the shifting landscape seemed to stabilize, and the campground appeared before them once more. They stumbled back to their campsite, their faces pale and their minds reeling from the inexplicable experience. The memory of the disappearing campground and the haunting whispers haunted their thoughts, a reminder that even the most familiar of places can become portals to the unknown. Silent Valley had become a place of both beauty and terror, a location forever intertwined with their memories of a nightmarish overnight trip. The friends left the campground with a newfound respect for the mysteries of nature, and a haunting awareness that reality itself can sometimes shift and unravel in the most unsettling of ways. The haunted retreat cabin. Nestled deep within the remote wilderness was a cabin that had long been abandoned. The locals avoided it, claiming it was cursed and haunted by the spirits of those who had once sought refuge there. One autumn, a group of friends decided to test their bravery and spend an overnight trip at the notorious cabin. As they approached the cabin, the air grew still and a sense of unease settled over the group. The cabin appeared weathered and desolate, its windows shattered and its wooden frame covered in moss and ivy. The wind seemed to carry whispered warnings, but the friends brushed off their apprehension. Inside, the cabin was frozen in time, its interior eerily preserved from decades past. Dust-covered furniture sat in silent disarray, and faded photographs adorned the walls. A rusted pot still hung over the fireplace, as if waiting for the return of its long-gone inhabitants. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they lit a fire in the fireplace and gathered around it, sharing stories and trying to make light of their surroundings. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and causing the firelight to dance and flicker. The atmosphere was charged with tension, each creak and groan of the old cabin sending shivers down their spines. As the night deepened, strange occurrences began to unfold. Whispers seemed to drift through the air, carried on the wind that slipped through the cracks in the cabin's walls. Shadows moved in the corners of their vision, taking on shapes that seemed to watch and wait. One of the friends, Alex, claimed to have seen a figure standing in the doorway, a faint, translucent apparition that seemed to waver between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Panic rippled through the group as they stared at the doorway, but the figure had vanished as quickly as it had appeared. With their hearts racing, they decided to explore the cabin further, their flashlights casting trembling beams of light into the darkness. In a corner of the main room, they found a journal with faded, illegible entries. As they read the entries, they pieced together a tragic tale of a family that had sought refuge in the cabin during a harsh winter, only to succumb to illness and despair. Their unease deepened as they realized that the dates in the journal aligned with the time of year they were visiting. It was as if the spirits of the ill-fated family were reliving their final days, trapped within the walls of the cabin. Suddenly, the fire in the fireplace roared to life, sending a shower of sparks into the air. The temperature in the cabin plummeted, and a bone-chilling wind seemed to sweep through the room. Terrified, they huddled together, their breaths visible in the frigid air. Amidst the chaos, they heard a mournful wail that seemed to resonate from the walls themselves. The whispers grew louder, forming desperate cries and anguished pleas. The cabin seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, its very foundations shaken by the spirit's torment. In a moment of shared terror, they fled the cabin, their footsteps echoing as they raced through the darkness. The wind howled around them, carrying with it the anguished echoes of the spirits they had encountered. They didn't stop until they were far away from the haunted retreat, the cabin now a distant silhouette against the night sky. They returned to their homes forever haunted by the memory of the cabin and the tormented spirits that seemed to linger within its walls. The experience had left an indelible mark on their lives, a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, their secrets and hauntings destined to endure through the ages. The abandoned amusement park's ghostly carousel. In a forgotten corner of a small town lay an abandoned amusement park, its attractions weathered by time and memories. Among the attractions stood an old carousel, once a centerpiece of joy and laughter, now a relic of the past. One group of friends decided to spend an overnight trip exploring the deserted park, unaware of the haunting secrets that awaited them. As they entered the amusement park, a sense of nostalgia mixed with eerie anticipation. Moonlight cast eerie shadows over the dilapidated rides, and the sound of creaking metal echoed through the still night air. They wandered through the deserted pathways, the overgrown plants reclaiming their territory. The carousel stood like a sentinel in the center of the park, its paint faded and its once vibrant horses frozen in mid-gala. Despite the neglect, the carousel retained an aura of enchantment, as if the laughter of children and the tunes of long-forgotten melodies still lingered in the air. As they circled the carousel, they noticed something odd. One of the horses seemed to move, its position shifting slightly as if responding to their presence. At first, they dismissed it as a trick of the moonlight, but then the movement became more pronounced. With a mix of curiosity and trepidation, they approached the carousel. The music, faint yet unmistakable, began to play, an eerie, distorted melody that seemed to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once. The wind blew through the cracked speakers, creating an eerie, mournful symphony. Suddenly, the carousel sprung to life, its horses moving in a macabre dance, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. The friends exchanged terrified glances as they realized they were witnessing something beyond explanation. The carousel seemed to be alive, a spectral echo of its former self. Unable to tear their eyes away, they watched as the music grew louder, the rhythm pulsating through the ground beneath them. Shadows danced around the carousel, taking on ethereal forms that seemed to blend with the night. The air grew thick with a sense of foreboding, and the temperature dropped drastically. Amidst the haunting music and the swirling shadows, they heard whispers, faint, mournful voices that seemed to be carried on the wind. The whispers formed words, fragments of stories that spoke of laughter, joy, and a tragic accident that had marred the park's history. With a sudden jolt, the carousel ground to a halt, its horses frozen once more. The music faded, leaving behind a haunting silence that seemed to stretch for eternity. The friends stood there, their hearts pounding and their breaths ragged, their minds struggling to comprehend what they had just witnessed. As they left the amusement park, the memory of the ghostly carousel lingered, an unforgettable testament to the supernatural forces that can lie dormant within the places we think we know. The abandoned amusement park became a symbol of the past's lingering presence, a reminder that even the most joyful memories can become tinged with a haunting, otherworldly melancholy. The abandoned hotel on Haunted Hill. In a remote corner of the Appalachian Mountains, there stood an imposing structure that locals referred to as the abandoned hotel on Haunted Hill. The hotel had a reputation that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak its name. Tales of mysterious disappearances, eerie apparitions, and inexplicable sounds circulated like wildfire through the nearby town. One summer, a group of adventurous college students decided to spend an overnight trip at the abandoned hotel, determined to prove that the stories were nothing more than urban legends. Armed with cameras and their skepticism, they set out as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows over the surrounding landscape. Upon arriving at the hotel, they were struck by its grandeur. The building loomed over them, its once grand architecture now dilapidated and covered in layers of ivy and graffiti. Undeterred by the eerie atmosphere, they entered the building, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. As darkness settled in, they set up their sleeping bags in what appeared to be the lobby. Their flashlights cast flickering light on the peeling wallpaper and shattered glass that littered the floor. The air was thick with a musty odor, and a cold breeze seemed to snake its way through the broken windows. They laughed off their unease, telling jokes and trying to capture the essence of adventure in their photos. But as the night wore on, their bravado began to waver. Strange sounds echoed from the upper floors, faint footsteps, whispered conversations, and the occasional sound of distant music. Determined to confront whatever was causing the noises, they grabbed their flashlights and cautiously ascended the grand staircase. Each step seemed to creak in protest, as if warning them to turn back. On the second floor, they discovered a corridor lined with room doors, each one slightly ajar. As they walked down the hallway, they felt a sudden drop in temperature, and their breath fogged in front of them. One of the doors slowly swung open, revealing an eerie scene, a room frozen in time. The furniture was covered in dusty sheets, and an old radio crackled to life, emitting a static-filled tune that sent shivers down their spines. With their hearts pounding, they stepped closer to the radio, but before they could react, it abruptly shut off. The room plunged into darkness, and a bone-chilling gust of wind extinguished their flashlights. Panic set in as they fumbled to relight their lights, but when they finally managed to illuminate the room, they were alone. They quickly retreated from the room, their nerves frayed and their determination shattered. Back in the lobby, they huddled together, their laughter now replaced with unease. They could feel eyes on them, an unseen presence watching from the shadows. As dawn broke and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the shattered windows, they wasted no time packing up their belongings and fleeing the abandoned hotel. The once bold adventurers were now haunted by the unsettling events of the night, forever changed by their encounter with the supernatural. They returned to the town, their stories met with a mix of disbelief and knowing nods from the locals. The abandoned hotel on Haunted Hill retained its sinister reputation, and the college students had become part of its haunting lore. The photos they captured revealed eerie figures and unexplainable phenomena, solidifying their experience as a chilling reminder that some legends are born from real, unsettling events.